Greetings, YouTube. Sorry, I didn't know the camera was on. As I mentioned in a former video I made recently, I'm still looking at the After the Bomb 2nd edition rules. Again, I poke at RPG books on and off. Whenever I have a few minutes, I read a few more pages. So I'm not doing it in a dedicated way. But I've been looking at that entire system pretty much word for word. If once I get an idea what a skill is, I don't need to read every skill. I unless I think it's particularly interesting. But one thing I have noticed is I think that there's a degree of granularity that just makes no sense to me. Now, like any other system, you have a limited number of access to skills. Now, in the Palladium system, you have primary and secondary. Primary skills are ones that you have invested in a professional level, while secondary skills are more, amateur kind of stuff, which I understand the two-tier system. I don't necessarily think it needs to exist. I think if you just put fewer points in it and say there's a threshold, because if you are an amateur and you're above a certain level, you're now encroaching on the professional level. You may not be making a living, but I know singers on YouTube and on Instagram who have voices as good as anyone that has ever been paid for it. They just don't do it for pay. They do it for fun. So just because you're an amateur doesn't mean you aren't producing the same quality of material as a professional. One person's decided to make their living at it and another hasn't. So I don't necessarily know if you need a two-tier system, but it exists. So it exists. But beyond that, there's a degree of granularity in this game which makes no sense to me. I'm going to give an example of this. Here we have under the comprehensive list of skills by category, and they had them categorized, in chunks. So we have domestic skills, animal husbandry, breeding, and controlling insects. Frankly, I think those should probably be under the same category. Okay? Carpentry, cook, dance, dowsing, and water location. Why would you want to dedicate skill resources to dowsing and water location? Shouldn't that be part of just wilderness survival? Farming and gardening. Now you may have a background in farming and gardening, but how much farming and gardening are you going to be doing in the course of the adventure, and how pertinent is farming and gardening going to be to your career as an adventurer? Fishing, general repair and maintenance. Okay, I can kind of see that one. Identify plants and fruits. Again, why isn't that part of wilderness? If you're just identifying them, you don't necessarily need how to raise them. Just know what they are and what they're used for. Imitate animal or insect sounds. I can't decide where that should go, but it just seems weird that you need an entire skill dedicated to it. Language, okay. Literacy, completely different. Again, I don't think that's required. I understand that there are lots of people in the world who can speak a language and not read it. But do we need that level of detail in an RPG, in a post-apocalyptic setting? Musical instrument, preserve food. Again, why do you need a skill dedicated to that? Why isn't that just rolled under just general? If you have a background where you might have known how to do this, you generally know how to do that. Or if it's a wilderness environment, it should be under wilderness survival. Okay, like I have a more good working understanding on how to preserve food in like a domestic environment. I've never done a lot of it. I have been engaged in it once or twice in my life, but I don't think I should dedicate an entire skill to it, particularly in a post-apocalyptic environment. Because again, you're adventurers, you're not homebodies. Read music. Why isn't that just part of knowing how to play an instrument? I understand there are people who can play by ear. My mother-in-law's late husband could play by ear, could never read music. He was a very talented professional musician. His wife, my mother-in-law, knows how to read music. She's a music teacher, instructor to this day, and they played together as a duet. He played keyboards, she played strings. I just don't think you need to have that separate. I don't. I understand that there are people who play by ear and those that know how to read music. Again, post-apocalyptic environment, do we really need this level of detail? Read music. Sculpting and whittling. I can kind of understand that skill maybe, but under a general craft skill maybe, like, crafting with a subcategory like that, maybe it should be a dedicated skill. I'm not positive. Sewing, just general tailoring, you know what I mean? You just, sign language, again, that should be under language. Sing, okay. Skin and prepare animal hides, that should be under wilderness survival, or maybe put it under being a tanner if you want, or a leather worker, but that should be, I think, craft leatherworking. I think that should definitely encapsulate that particular skill. Trapping and tracking, I think those should be under wilderness. I don't think they need to be separate. Wilderness survival and writing, in the sense that writing as an art form. Okay. Then we have medical. Okay, and I don't know if I have all of the medical. I do. Okay, I have a little medical in this list. Okay. Clinical genetics. How often is that going to come up in a post-apocalyptic environment for a player character? I mean, I maybe see a really brainy person, but you just hire an expert for that. Dentistry, first aid, okay. Herbal medicine, all right. Internal medicine, paramedic, pathology, radiology, surgery, veterinary medicine. There seems to be too many fine levels here. I think you could roll these in to larger skills that then allow you to do other things. Now, in this world where mutant animals are everywhere, I think that veterinary medicine really is pointless. It's just medicine. You're dealing with diverse populations every single day. You're never sure of what species is going to walk in your door if you're a doctor. So a person that specializes in just treating humans, maybe that should be a specialty, but everybody else, just medicine. You don't need to call it veterinary medicine. Then we have military, camouflage, demolitions. They have demolitions down. Oh, demolitions and demolition disposal. Why are they separate? Why? That makes no sense. Intelligence, interrogation, land navigation, laser systems, optic systems, radio, satellite relay, radio, scramblers, recognize weapon quality, and surveillance systems. Again, just too much damn detail. Then we get into physical skills, and it's kind of interesting because this system allows you to actually put skill points into physical skills and improve your own abilities. You take fencing, that improves your compact abilities. You become a better fencer. And you also, for example, is hand-to-hand basic, hand-to-hand expert, hand-to-hand assassin, hand-to-hand martial arts, hand-to-hand bullfight, which is a type of style that mutant animals engage in. That kind of makes sense to have that be separate. But do we need a specific assassin? We can take assassin out, and basic, expert, and martial arts and bullfight, I think, covers everything you need. Again, an assassin is someone who gets paid to kill. I don't think you need a particular skill for that. Juggling, prowl, again, sleight of hand and a stealth skill. A running skill, which makes you much better at running, which is important in a world where many mutant animals may not be able to use a lot of technology because of the way their bodies are shaped. Swimming advanced, scuba, and wrestling. Then there's so many pilot skills: ground, air, and water, aircraft mechanic, airplane, automobile/car, automobile mechanics, boating, construction and farming equipment, helicopter, jet, military vehicles, motorcycle, navigation, read sensor equipment, sailing, teamster/wagoner, truck, vehicle, weapon systems. Land, water, air. Done. You know how to pilot them. You know how to get yourself from point A to point B. Then we get into the rogue thief skills. Card shark, computer hacking. Concealment, cryptography, detect ambush, detect concealment, disguise, escape, forgery, imitate voice, impersonation, locate secret compartment doors, palming, pick locks, pickpockets, safecracking, streetwise, tailing, use and recognize poison, ventriloquism. I think you could roll those into a fewer number of skills. Now the science and scholastics is absurd. Again, post-apocalyptic environment. Anthropology, antiquarian, archaeology, astronomy, astrophysics, biology, botany, chemistry, chemistry specific analytical, electrical engineering, genetics, history, mathematics basic, mathematics advanced, mechanical engineering. Then we get into the technical skills. Art, drawing and painting, barbering, blacksmith, boat building, brewing, canoe building, canoe building. You know how to make a boat, you know how to make a canoe. Carpentry, computer operations, computer programming, computer repair, electronics basic, farrier basic, locksmith, masonry, mechanics basic, photography, plumbing, public speaking, radio, basic communications, rope works, and television and video systems. And then we get into the weapons proficiencies. Now, there are different categories. We have, for example, we have ancient here, which is archery, battle axe, blunt, chain, which blunt and chain, I think should be in the same category. Chain is slightly different, but not a bot. Crossbow, forked weapons, grappling hook, knife, net, paired weapons, I think, yeah, kind of makes sense. I hope that I can't remember if it's anything you can use. I don't think it has to be, I don't think it's specific to each weapon. Polearm, you can put fork weapons under polearm. If you have a category called polearm, and if you've ever actually seen how many different types of polearms there are, yeah, forked weapons gonna fit right in to the polearm category. Shield, that's being used offensively. Spear, staff, sword, targeting, throwing missile weapons, so handheld tossing, and whip. I think that they're asking too much as far. Then we get into modern weapons, like the stuff that we have today's, as well as the stuff in the near future. We have revolver and semi-automatic pistol. Okay, this one's what got me to make this video. That right there is what flipped my lid. I have not used firearms in a very long time, but I am trained in them, and I know how to use them safely, and I've used both revolvers and semi-automatic pistols. Okay? They do require separate types of operation. I don't believe they require separate skills to use. If you know how to sight a revolver, you know how to sight a pistol. If you know how to sight a pistol, you know how to sight a revolver. And if you're doing, like, you know, reaction shooting, where you're just point shooting, you're not aiming, you are instinctively aiming, hitting an object because you know if I have my gun pointed like this, it's going to hit that thing. There are people out there that can hit aspirins out of the air. They are not using their sights for that. They are doing it instinctively and reacting to the object in question. If you know how to do those things with a revolver, you know how to do them with a pistol. You don't need just small arms. If you really feel the need, small arms, single hand, or long arms. I think small arms is a category you're all set. Small arms, long arms, which covers like rifles, shotguns, nothing that's not a heavy weapon, but it's above a pistol. So you got like carbines, things like that. So yeah, weapons that require two hands as opposed to small arms. Weapons require one hand. Those are the only categories you need. Then it gets in like a bolt action rifle, semi-automatic rifle. How do they differ? Shotgun is its own category. Now, submachine gun, I can kind of understand that because that's an entirely different thing. Knowing how to operate a military-style machine gun is not, or submachine gun or machine gun, is not something you're going to know how to do. You just don't find that in most places. But in America, bolt-action rifles, semi-automatic rifles, or pump-action rifles either, which there are many different types of rifle, or shotguns, they all have different operating systems. But the process of using them, I don't think you need different categories. I really don't. I think it's absurd. Then you have the energy pistols, energy rifle, and heavy weapon. So those break it down into pistol, rifle, heavy weapon for energy stuff. 3 neat categories. You can do the same thing with the conventional weapons. Pistol, rifle, heavy weapons. Heavy weapons being heavy military style weapons. You can put the submachine gun in there, but shotguns, rifles, and automatic and semi-automatic rifle and a bolt action rifle should all be in the same category. Now it's interesting that they have automatic rifle, because there are military firearms that fire automatically when you pull the trigger and hold it down. Why, I don't know. I don't think anyone needs anything more than a 3-round burst in a military firearm. I think it's a waste of ammo, and it just leads to spraying and praying. So again, they broke it down in 3 categories for energy. The writers understood that made sense. So why doesn't it make sense? It's a level of granularity of detail that's just absurd. I've been going on for 16 minutes. I apologize. It just gets to me. This is a reflection. The skill lists they've provided us with are a reflection of the here and now. It makes sense that here, right now, you have all these different categories. That makes perfect sense. In a post-apocalyptic setting, it's not the here and now. Things are a lot more general. They're a lot less detailed because they have to be. You're trying to survive desperately. The levels of speciality you're seeing in this are going to be only found in large settlements or cities. You're not going to find them where most player characters are going to be starting out in villages or towns. Let's face it, that's where most of our adventures are going to start. They're going to start in small settlements or small towns. They're not going to start in bustling cities. I guess you could do that if you wanted to. But people who have dedicated their lives to that kind of level of speciality are not adventurers. They're academics. They're professionals. They stay in the towns, the big towns and the cities, because that's where they make their living. And if you need them, you come to them. And if you want to hire them to go into the field, that's going to cost you. And they're going to want protection. They're the NPCs you hire. I mean, I don't necessarily want to be playing in a game where everyone in the party is some kind of academic. It might be interesting, but not for a campaign. It bugs me. I just think it's a waste of time, and it's a waste of skills that are desperately needed in all these different categories. Now remember, you have careers in this game, so the careers dictate which skills you start with. How many do you get? Like you get like X number of primary skills and X number of secondary skills, and some skills take more than one skill slot. For example, basic hand-to-hand, that's single. You want elite, that's 2 slots, and you want martial art, that's 3 slots. So you're losing up. You're really focusing. You're showing you're focusing on that. Awesome. You've solved that problem of representing with your skill available how you do it. But do you want to be spending stuff on all these different things? I know I sure shoot and don't. I think your average person should know enough to kludge their way through a lot of these things. So yeah, I get a problem with it. I'm sorry I went on this incredibly long rant here, but it is what it is. Sometimes you just get into the zone, you know what I mean? So let's talk about when a skill system goes too far. And if anybody knows what is the most complex skill system known to tabletop role-playing games, I'm not sure if I know them all, but I would probably say hero or champions. I mean, they're roughly the same thing. That would probably be the finest granularity out there. But I could be wrong. There could be other systems out there. So tell me about it. Let's talk about how detailed the skill systems get, and do we really think they need to go that far?